First speaker for the evening, as I mentioned before, our Table Topics Master for the day and Table Topics Champion, who brings us a thrilling speech entitled Non-Project Speech, which I understand will be some anecdote that he will be keeping in mind who's in the audience. Is that correct? What's that? Your speech is going to be an anecdote, keeping in mind who's in the audience. Oh, you lost me.
I really don't have any powers at all. It's just really.
I don't mean to be ribbing.
I have no powers, so you don't really have to worry about it.
Okay. And I really have no powers when it comes to humor because I'm not laughing.
They just made us laugh instead.
Like, I am not a mime. Okay. John is our immediate past president, and he's been with us for 3 years now. So he's a lot of experience. He has a pretty name tag, which I do not. So that makes him better than me. Everybody give it up for Mr. John Boyd.
On one hand, you have this young man that has a rough background. He was charged with strong-arm robbery, carrying a concealed weapon. Seen pretty rough times. This other end, you have this young man who was a very good athlete, went off to college, got a bachelor's in elementary education with minors in French, theater, middle school teaching and coaching endorsements, and then went on to get his master's in higher education with emphasis in multiculturalism and diversity. Can you see the differences? They're one and the same. When I was in high school, I had just recently turned 18 years old. I had an experience that pretty much changed my life. It could have been one for the worse. Now, as you know, or most of you may know from some of my past speeches, I was one of the good kids. Student athlete, you know, had my buddies and we were all good guys. Our biggest problem was wanting to party too much or just play or chase the girls, you know. But we weren't like some of the other guys in the neighborhood who had taken the wrong path and was selling drugs. Well, we didn't like this. And our way of fighting drugs in our little projects in Largo was we saw someone that we knew didn't come from the neighborhood, driving slow, looking for drugs. We would take rocks, bottles, bricks, throw it at their cars, tell them, get the hell out of our neighborhood. I even had a buddy who would go up and say, yeah, what do you need? And as they tell him what they wanted, he'd punch him in the face. I even had another buddy who would go up and say, yeah, what do you need? He would snatch their money and run. Nevertheless, these people wouldn't want to come in our neighborhood to buy drugs anymore. Heck, they'd go to Clearwater or something somewhere. And that was our little vigilante way of fighting drugs. One particular evening, yours truly was walking home, and I saw this truck driving slowly. I knew what they wanted. 2 men in this flatbed truck. I ignored them, and then they gave me the little nod. So I went over. I figured, you know what? I'm gonna snatch these fools' money. That way I get their money and they won't come around here anymore. He had the money in his hand. So then will you pick up one of your slips there? He had the money in his hand, but he didn't hold it up high enough for me. So I said, yeah, go down there, turn around the little cul-de-sac, come back, I have some drugs for you. Now where I was in my apartment complex, we were near the front office, which it was closed. And then we had a Girls Inc. building, which was obviously closed also. So I couldn't have gone to a house to get drugs. So as they went down to turn around, I'm looking around on the ground so I could find a pebble of something that would look like crack to symbolize what they were looking for. There was no rocks. I couldn't find any. I found some wet tissue. It rained earlier, so I made 3 little wads of paper. And so as they pulled back up, I go, yeah, what do you need? He said, a 20. Like lightning. As many of you heard, my uncle said that I ran so fast, telephone poles would lean. They didn't have a chance in hell of catching me. So I ran down, they were facing this way. I ran the opposite direction, bent behind the projects, and ran back up this way to where they were. So they were back there looking for, they were lost. Now, young black man running in the projects at night doesn't look good. So I saw a sheriff's car driving by, stopped in the front of the building, and then I heard a door slam. And then the car came around, the sheriff's car came around, and a sheriff came around on foot. Freeze, what are you doing? What are you doing? Hey, stop, stop. No, these two guys in this truck, they were chasing me. I think they were looking for drugs or something. Took the money out, looked at it, took my keys out of my pocket. Get in the car. Not you're under arrest. Not you have a right to remain silent. Didn't put handcuffs on me. Get in the car. I said, that's the truck right there. The truck pulled up. They just ignored him. The truck drove away. Put me in the back seat, drove me down to the Largo Sheriff Station. Not jail, the Sheriff Station. I'm confused. Where are we going? Just sit back. As we pull around the back of the station, what's going on? It's pitch black. No cars back there. And I'm sorry, just being honest, you've heard these stories of these cops beating up these kids and whatever. And I had a couple little rings on my hand, because that was, it's early 90s, so everyone wanted to wear the gold. I'm straightening my rings up, because I'm like, they beat me up. Well, they're going to know they had a fight on their hands, because I'm breaking somebody's nose. So I'm planning how I'm going to beat up these two sheriffs and try to get away without getting killed, as I see something in the distance. That black truck. Undercovers. Well, now, I breathed a sigh of relief. Because now I know they're not out to beat me up. They're mad because I took the money, they were trying to do that little drugs thing and I ruined it. Oh, okay, so I feel good now. As I pulled up, before I could even stop the vehicle, before they stopped the vehicle, the undercover was on the car and I thought he was gonna break his finger, how he was tapping on the window. Yeah, we got you, little MF. I was, wow. Snatched me out of the car. What'd you do with the drugs? Where'd you go get your drugs? I said, man, that was tissue I picked up off the ground to fool you with. Yeah, who's selling all the drugs in the neighborhood? I don't sell drugs. I said, you guys know more about who sells drugs than I do. And the two sheriffs always worked our neighborhood. They know everybody. They recognized me, but they were standing, they wouldn't say anything. I said, man, you guys know me. I play football for Largo High. I don't sell no drugs. They stood back while the undercovers just got in my face. And it got to the point where I got angry and I started to mouth off back. This little jewelry you got here, this little bracelet, well, it's getting confiscated, because anything you have during a drug-related robbery is confiscated. I said, man, you just made it mad because I made you look stupid. My mom gave me this jewelry. Yeah. Now the cuffs came on. Took me down to 49th Street. Booked me. Immediately I called my buddy. B-Rock, call Marlon, call Carlos, man, don't go by the house. I'm in jail. Yeah, right. They said, no, for real. I don't want to leave me. Seriously. I'm in jail. I'll call you tomorrow to come get me because I figured, they'll just let me out. Long story short, they didn't let me out the next day. They processed me and put me in a cell, maximum security, literally with murderers. Oh. The guy in the cell recognized me. He said, no, he knew I was from Largo. And I told him I was from Largo. He said, well, you probably know my sister. I was like, no, what's her name? And he called a name and I didn't know it, and he showed me a picture. I said, oh, that's Ducci. And that was her nickname. That's all I knew her by. We actually were in a little dance group together. So this guy, who had actually killed someone, he had shot someone in Clearwater for trying to rob him or something, but he really looked out for me. It wasn't like people were trying to rape me. There was no horror stories. The jail was actually pretty clean. I don't know if it was a new wing or what. Spotless clean. The guys were cool. We could watch TV. It was just a matter of being there. I sat there for a week before they let me out. And he told me, he said, what you did was a petty theft. He said, you will probably get out on R&R when you go to court. I went to court, no R&R. My mom had to wind up pawning jewelry to get me out of jail. I sat there day after day after day, seeing visitors come in, and I'm sitting behind the glass talking to them out of jail. Now, I've gone through this, but my younger brother, who was in and out of the system, we used to go see him, and he was on the inside of the glass, and I would talk to him. But this time, Johnny Boy, the good guy, football player from Largo High, got all the girls, behind the jail. Hey, coach. Johnny, you all right in there? Yeah. Well, why was I in there so long for a petty theft misdemeanor? Well, my public pretender, my public defender, explained to me that the detective wrote the report up like this, that the assailant showed him crack, and that I forcibly grabbed his hand. I grabbed his hand and forcibly took the money out of his hand. So that made it a felony. So the difference of this, petty theft, misdemeanor, slap on the wrist, grabbing your hand, forcibly taken out, and the money didn't rip, but I forcibly took it out. That's a felony because supposedly I actually touched him. Big difference. Well, no way in the world am I going to settle for that. I didn't do that. I didn't do a strong arm robbery. I did a petty theft. It was stupid. Okay, I'll plead guilty to that. But I'm not pleading to a felony strong arm robbery. That's horrible. Because I knew with a felony on your record, and I knew at this point in high school, I wanted to teach. I wanted to work in education. No way. Well, this is the way he explained it. He said, well, you got to look at it like this. You might not want to take it to trial and fight against it. I said, but I didn't do it. What I did was this, and I'll admit to that. It was stupid. But I did not do a felony. It's your word against the cops. He can say he's been on undercover for I don't know how long, and he knows what crack looks like and that you had crack in your hand. Not knowing that if I had crack, I would have just sold it to him. That's what drug dealers do. They sell the drug, why keep it? But also, that if I take it to trial and lose, I will go to jail. I will lose any scholarship offers I have facing me. Now my mother's sitting here listening to this in tears. Baby, just don't fight it. I was like, but Ma, I didn't do this. I know, baby, but just don't fight it. I felt so trapped. Well, listen, there's a way out. Just plead no contest. That's not saying you're guilty. That just says you don't want to fight it in court. And they'll give you a withheld adjudication, meaning it's not a guilty verdict. It's just a withheld adjudication. And so on an application, they ask, have you ever been convicted of a felony? You could click no, legally. And they'll just give you probation, and it'll all go away. My mom, please just do it. What do? Took the plea. So to this day, I have a strong arm robbery on my record. It's not a conviction, but applications don't ask that anymore. They say, have you been convicted of a felony, pled no contest to, or received a withheld adjudication? So it's still a life sentence. Everywhere I have to go, every job I've had, even getting into the master's program, I had to go before committees and explain all of this. Because to hear it's strong arm robbery, but then when I sit in a committee, it's not much different than this, and have to explain it, they're all looking at each other like, why in the hell are we here? This guy's obviously not a threat. Welcome to our school, Mr. Boyd, or welcome to our job, Mr. Boyd. But it's a headache. And how many people go through that in life? Feeling trapped. They have to take the plea. But for purposes of time, that's just one of my stories of you don't have to be a bad person to get caught up in some bad things. Mr. Toastmaster.